All right, episode 51. Here we go. Episode 51. Wow.
Wow. Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Naomi.
I'm Liz.
And we're the Run Galloway girls.
And we made it to 51
Yeah.
episodes, which is incredible.
I was going to say, if you've been listening this long,
wow.
thank you.
Yeah,
wow.
It hasn't even been a year since we started the podcast, and we're going to hit 52 episodes. And we took some weeks off.
We did. Yeah, we had
We're
some
gonna hit 52
unplanned
episodes.
rest breaks, which actually are a good thing to talk about too.
Mhm.
But yeah, we're going to hit our goal, and hopefully we can carry this through. I know next year will be a whole different ball wax once your baby arrives.
I know, but I mean, I don't know. I feel like babies are quiet.
You'll be feeding at 5 a.m.
Okay,
But
well,
we'll see.
I mean, Brian needs a turn feeding sometimes.
There you go.
And because that's actually like funny. Like, I feel like here's the benefit of having a baby at 41 versus having a baby at 29 or 20,
Yeah.
right? I've seen everything that my friends have done, and they've been like, oh, don't do that. Or like I've been just silently judging. I'm like, I'm going to do something a little different. Like, I definitely want to breastfeed and really hope that I can breastfeed. But I know that even though it's going to be a pain in the ass, and I'm pretty sure I'm not even going to say I'm pretty sure I'm going to get it. I'm definitely going to get an in-bra pump so that I can pump
At work.
while I'm not tied to a machine.
Yeah.
Even if it takes longer. Like, I watch all these physician women who have given birth, and they're like, oh, it's great. I literally just pump.
And teachers.
Right. And I'm like,
do it.
Okay.
They don't have a private place.
Right. I'm like, okay, so if I can have an in-bra pump and just make that short, it's gonna be a pain in the butt.
Yeah.
But it's not gonna strap me to a chair or to I'll probably be sitting down at work. Anyway, I would like to, right from day one, have one bottle feed a day with Brian, because I feel like you bond, and this is also my experience as a nanny, you bond with a baby when you feed them, even if it's not from your breast.
Oh, yeah.
Like, there is a bonding when you are giving a baby a bottle. So,
Yeah.
and I want Brian to experience that, because I feel like, I don't know, I just feel like that would be good.
Yeah. Well, and again, like you've also seen from experience, and I learned this when it was my second baby at 37, 36, whatever age I was, versus my first at 20-something, was that, if it doesn't work out, then it's okay, versus like having that insistence on it. But because it really is the first 2 or 3 weeks of breastfeeding, it's way harder than once you're at the point of pumping and you're at work, then you've made it. Like, if you're at the point where you're back to work and you're pumping, like, you're like, yeah, this works. I know I can do it. But it's those first few weeks of settling in. But yeah, and if it doesn't, then it doesn't.
Yeah.
Like, that's the good thing, is that you have life experience of knowing that, like, things don't always go the way you plan. And so you've got to pivot and just deal with it.
I just really hope, my boobs have doubled in size, so I assume they're gonna make good milk.
That's what the point is, right?
I've never, right. I'm where did this chest come from? It's great. Of course it came along with a belly too, but but it's I'm really hopeful. So with that said, I'm hoping it's not me that's, of course it probably will be me getting up, but I'm hoping that I'm also I need to be able to sleep at least 6 hours.
Yeah.
So.
It's just the wild card, it's
But
great.
I know a lot of babies won't take a bottle because they don't start the one bottle feed early, and that can be really tough when they transition into daycare.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, we've had to spoon feed babies milk.
Oh my gosh.
Because they wouldn't take a bottle or a cup or anything. And so our teachers would do it. Our teachers would sit there and spoon feed breast milk to these children. It was insane.
That's crazy.
So, and
I love that you're putting into work all of the things that you're manifesting.
Oh my gosh.
You're signing up for all the races.
I signed up for all the 5Ks.
Through pregnancy and post pregnancy. And I love that, you're manifesting it now, that it's gonna happen. You're gonna your life will continue. But then you have to also be ready to shift on a dime and just be all right, it's okay. I'm doing this instead.
I feel like this is the same attitude that I had when I signed up for the Fall of Fun.
Yeah.
And the Fall of Fun, for those of you who don't know, was 2019. Naomi was pregnant, so I signed up for literally, I raced
Every
every other
weekend.
weekend. It was insane. So I raced Army 10 miler, and I actually crushed there and had so much fun.
PR'd.
And PR'd, but also it was like managed and easy and great. I did Marine Corps 50K. I did Wine and Dine weekend, had a PR there.
Yep.
Also controlled, but like 6 days after
50K.
the 50K, I ran a 10K for the Wine and Dine challenge.
Then 6 days after that, you ran Richmond.
6 days after a PR in
Paced.
half marathon, I ran Richmond.
Yeah.
And paced Lauren to a 4:23.
Yeah.
And, you know, we talked about last week on the podcast, like the difference between a pacing
Yes.
or easy marathon
And a race.
and a race is going to be about 15 minutes.
Yeah. 2
and-
minutes per mile.
Yeah, and then went 3 weeks later and qualified for Boston at CIM.
Yeah.
Like it was pretty great. I'm pretty sure I ran a 5K in there too. Like
I think you probably did New Year's Day, like after that. Did you do
I
any
know
in
I did
between?
New Year's. I think I ran Frosty.
Okay, we'll have to go back and look.
I can't remember because I remember like my legs like dying.
Like 2 weeks after
Yeah.
Jam or something.
Yeah.
Or 1 week after. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of like the way to approach stuff, right? Is like to be hopefully like to be like optimistic that you can
Right.
do the things you want to do, and also like, and that's when we sign up for any race, even not pregnant. You sign up for these races, being like, hopefully by that time I'll be able to do what I want to do, or at least run them. And you just don't know what life will throw at you.
Here's the thing, like everything we've signed up for in the fall, like I know that if I'm able to start training by August, I'll be able to complete a marathon. Like right? But if I'm not able to start training by August, like I'm going to have to say nope, these aren't happening, because I'm going to stand by the fact that I think the marathon distance needs to be respected.
Oh yes,
And
big time.
slow runners out there, it's amazing that you're out there running and you're out there running 6-hour marathons because you trained and that's what you can do. Those of you that are out there showing up at a marathon untrained doing 6 hours, like that's dangerous. I think that's dangerous. And I think that that doesn't show the respect for this distance, that, you know, it's hard on your body and it's not fun. And I gotta tell you, it is a lot more fun being trained for races.
Right.
And so if you're still one of those people that's like, oh, training's not really my thing, it's just show up and do it, like up to a half, go for it, have fun. But the marathon needs to be respected. It really, really does. And part of it is that you become one of the people that's a risk for the rest of the race, when like chances are you won't need EMS attention, but if you do, you're I don't know. I just think globally so often.
Yeah.
And I know that people might be like, well, that's like, people should be able to do whatever they
That's
want.
elitist or something.
But people should be able to do whatever they want. But it's really like protective. Like I feel like all the people in the groups that complain about how the race went, oftentimes they'll say, well, I didn't train enough, but I still think it should have been like this. And it's like, well, like, sure, maybe it's valid, but also like, I don't know, I feel like training prepares you for the things that might go wrong on race day too, even when they're the race's fault that they go wrong.
Yeah, we talked about it a bit, like with our Marine Corps episode recap, because it was a race that was black flagged and the gauntlets were moved to a shorter timeline, and it, I think it's just comes back to that, like if it's a possibility that even on just a regular good day for you, you're going to miss the time cutoffs, then it's possible that you should look at other races, other distances.
I don't even think it has to do with your time. I think somebody who's capable of showing up and running a 4:30 untrained shouldn't do a marathon.
Oh yeah, it's dangerous.
Because I think
agree.
it's dangerous.
I agree.
Like I think, like not only is it physically dangerous, like physical later, like skeletally, like you could end up with an injury, things like that.
Right.
It's also cardiovascularly dangerous.
Yeah, agreed.
It puts you at a higher. So we talk about like how great running is for your heart, right? And it is cardio, like running is fantastic for your cardiovascular system, right? Runners in general, like during the rest of your day, have a lower risk of having heart attacks. Like it's awesome. However, while you are out running, you have a higher risk of a heart attack than even someone with heart disease.
Yeah.
So running can be dangerous
Yeah.
if your body's not used to it.
Well, and
that's what training's for.
And there's a tipping point. There's been studies that show that people who train a lot have more risk than so people who have like a heavier training load, people who are running a lot of hours, a lot of those, you have a higher risk if you're in that category than if you're doing like kind of the low maintenance work of like 20-minute runs. Is actually much safer for you than if you're doing these like 4-hour and 5-hour, if you're like these trail and ultra runners.
The longer you're out there, the higher your risk goes. Like,
right. And so it's that means on training runs too. Like the people who do ultras, who are constantly doing 20 and 25-mile runs for their training runs, have a higher risk.
I'll have to dig up the actual study, but it's something like while you are running, those minutes that you're running, you have like an 80 times chance of the general population of having a heart attack. But when you're sitting on the couch after that run, before and after, as a runner, your risk is very low, whereas like the general population would have like a 35 chance. These are made up numbers,
right?
When you're on the couch, you have a 20 chance, so your overall risk is lower. But that's why so many like fit old men runners have heart attacks while running.
Yeah.
Those men, and like the guy who wrote the book on running died on a run.
Right. Jim Fixx.
Right. So those men would have died younger of a heart attack had they not been runners.
Exactly.
Like, because heart disease, like you can't really outrun it.
Yeah. Like Jim Fixx would have died at 50 instead of 65 or whatever.
Right.
Like, it's commonly like, oh, he died while he's running, but yeah, it was a predisposition.
That's where with the marathon, like I think that people just need to really respect the distance of the marathon. So I am absolutely ready to defer Richmond. We haven't signed up for Marine Corps yet. I'm ready to defer anything if marathon isn't happening, because there's lots of spring halves and 5Ks and 10Ks to do. But I signed up for like 2 5Ks in December, 1 in January, 2 in 5K and a 10K in February. I don't know about the 10K. I'm a little nervous.
I think you'll be able to do it.
But it runs around my house, so I can always bail off. And then I was thinking about, and then I'm going to do Barb's 5K in Atlanta.
In March, yeah.
In March. And I was thinking about doing one at 37 weeks pregnant.
Yeah.
The rest are runners.
But like you mentioned, I
can walk it.
Waddle them. You can walk them. They have, again, like it's not like you're picking something that you're not going to make a like time cutoff.
Right.
If you were, then you would be like, well, if I can't walk it, then you can always walk it. No, I love it. I think that's like a good way to be like cautiously optimistic through life, of just like sign up for the stuff that you want to do, set yourself up for the stuff you want to do, like,
and just show up and have fun.
Yeah. And then you'll, baby gets here and priorities might change, but like, that's okay. Like, you know that those are like things that you're passionate about.
I say now, I'm not even going to think about running or starting exercise until I'm at least 6 weeks postpartum. But I might be someone who's like, bleeding's done, I feel better, and I'm like, all right, I'm going for a run.
Yeah. That's what I did.
It all depends, on how I'm feeling.
Yeah.
Especially, I can't imagine what I'm going to do with my day if I'm not at work. I really can't. I'm like, I don't know how to handle this baby vacation.
No, it is not a vacation.
My board president said that. She's like, how much time are you going to take off? I was like, well, I don't know. But like, I feel like kids aren't that much work. We have them at the center and like we get stuff done. And she's like, yeah, it's not a baby vacation.
No, you don't have newborns at the center.
We do have like 6-week-olds.
Right, but 6-week-olds are way easier than a 1-2 day old.
Yeah.
So yes, by 6 weeks you're in such a routine that like, yeah, definitely like 6 weeks, 8 weeks.
Yeah.
10 weeks, you do have a lot of time in your day where you can either work or you're bored. Like, I'm not kidding. Like after a month, like, yeah, you do get bored. But the first month, you're not going to be bored.
Yeah.
Because you're going to be tired.
So it'll be interesting. I am finding though that like, I do have like on days that I run, I have like kind of lasting pubic symphysis pain. So.
No. I'm sorry to hear that.
I mean, it's better this morning. Like,
good.
But it's
But
just
you ran
like,
yesterday
I
and you had the
did.
pain in your,
I did, and so I was waiting until after the amnio, and I did get my amnio results, and everything is just fine. I just got the final results this morning, even though they're
So
supposed
good.
to take 10 days. Anyway, I got the final results, and they're good.
Good.
So yeah, there's like one like little thing of insignificance that's like, because of the test we did, has so much like specificity, like it can see all these like ridiculous things. There's like one little weird thing that they're like, we don't know if this means anything.
Yeah.
So I'm like, all right, whatever.
And that's the thing with all that testing. Like, there's so much testing now that
this is like 23, it's like a 23andMe of the baby.
That's
and
cool.
So they're like, we don't know, but except not with all the cool reports.
Yeah, but it's like, now it's like a dangerous thing with like so much testing. I know we talked about that too in a previous episode, but like I was talking to my next door neighbor, Barbara, after that scare, and she was telling me about her second pregnancy and how she was 42 weeks, 41 weeks, whatever, and she went to the hospital in labor and he was dead. He came out stillborn, and they had no idea because back then people didn't. It was the late 60s, and people didn't have like all the testing we have.
And that's one of the reasons actually for the ARRIVE study and 39 weeks. So, like, I mean, this is not a pregnancy podcast, but one of the reasons physicians, especially in women over 35, but even still, like, pregnancies really shouldn't, I know some people go to 42 weeks, but every day longer than 40 weeks puts your baby at risk of stillbirth. And so they thought, okay, well, maybe inductions earlier would be better, but then inductions any earlier really than 38 weeks, and really it's best to wait to 39. Like, they put your baby at risk of breathing issues.
Yeah, their lungs aren't ready.
They're right. And so there's this great study that just came out. It's called the ARRIVE study about an elective induction at 39 weeks. And basically, like, it's just trying to kind of push women to, show women the data that a 39-week induction does not increase your risk of needing a C-section. It does not. It's actually good for the baby. Like, it decreases risk of, issues of going into spontaneous labor. It also can help you plan, which is really nice because so much about having a baby is not planned. Yeah. I mean, unless you go through IVF, like I did, and like everything was planned,
but so much is unknown. Yeah. And like, it's one thing. Yeah. Well, yeah, it was, I mean, for her, it was the cord was wrapped around his neck. So, like, I don't know how, like, but that might be something that happens later, too. I don't know. But it's just...
Well, it's because they get so big, they can't wiggle out of it.
Exactly. They can't move.
And, like, it could have happened, like, it could, like, back then, they don't know. It could have happened in utero, like, a week or two before.
Exactly. That's... and so that's the thing. It's, like, so much testing is great, but also, like, it's like we know so much that it can freak us out for reasons we don't need to be.
Exactly.
But I'm so glad that your screenings are clear and it's just looking perfect.
But I also still get to be like monitored high risk, which is nice because originally I was not put as a high risk pregnancy.
Oh, okay.
Even with my age, even with it being an IVF pregnancy, like Kaiser's kind of on like the cutting edge of stuff. They're like, well, if something happens to deem you high risk, we will. And they do all this like extra monitoring. Like I'm going to have my glucose test earlier. Yeah. Because older women have a higher risk of
gestational
diabetes. So they're going to do that glucose test earlier for me. Then, I mean, it's fine. And everybody's everybody's all up in arms about this stupid orange drink. I'm like, sounds good.
It's gross. It's so gross.
It doesn't taste like candy water?
Nope. It's disgusting.
Oh, well,
but whatever you do, don't go when you're sick like I did.
Yeah, they say don't go sick.
Because I got that false positive and had to go do the 3-hour. And it was horrible. The 3-hour was the worst.
Yeah. Well, I'm not worried about it. Even if I have to do the 3-hour, even if I have to monitor my blood sugar, I don't care.
No, the 3 hours is horrible because you're at like a nasty LabCorp for 3 hours. You don't get to eat, obviously, so you're like starving. And like I literally almost fainted when I left there. Yeah. I had to like find some. I brought snacks with me, but I like almost fainted from my blood sugar being that low.
Yeah.
It was
Because
really bad.
because it drops too.
Yeah, over the 3 hours it drops,
Well,
and because I didn't have
It's
diabetes.
again, the 1 hour is a screener, the 3 hour is the test.
Diagnostic, right?
And I get why they don't just give everybody the 3 hour. Like, I understand because that would take so much manpower and time. So
Plus it's awful.
but the numbers for the 1 hour, the fail are a lot.
Or higher.
They're lower.
Or
Yeah. So they're like, the screener catches a lot of people who are going to pass the 3 hour.
Exactly. It's false positives.
Yeah. So, like if the cutoff is 151 for the 1 hour, like the 1 hour cutoff for the 3 hours, like 168.
Right.
So yeah, or whatever it is. These are made up numbers. Always making up numbers. That's just me. So yeah. So I got a message from my cousin. She has a friend who's just diagnosed with celiac disease, and she's going to run for the Celiac Disease Foundation. She's going to run her first marathon, the LA Marathon. But it made me think. I was like, ooh, I want to run the LA Marathon. So we're going to have to add it to the list at some point.
I know. It's one I've wanted to do, but I've also heard that it's not a great course. So we'll have to ask Sherry because she's done it.
It's okay. I don't care if it's great or not.
It's just one to do.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like we just got to do the big cities.
I know.
And nobody talks about the LA Marathon, but the Olympics were in LA at one point. The first women's marathon was in LA, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
That's fun. So she's doing it for 2024?
Yeah, nice. So she's doing the LA Marathon because it's an LA Marathon in the spring.
It's in the spring.
Yeah, because I remember one of the athletes I coached, Laura, did the LA Marathon right as COVID was popping and everything was getting canceled. It was early
It was the
March.
last one. It was the last race that Sherry and all people had done before everything got canceled. It was,
which is so crazy.
That last weekend.
Which is insane. Speaking of early March, Atlanta.
Yes.
So
we'll be at Jeff's race. If you want to come join us or run virtually, you can use code RGG10 for 10% off the race registration. Come to Atlanta.
Reach out to us. Amazing. We have training plans put together for whatever your time goal is or whatever your goal for the race is. We also got a great message on our Instagram from somebody who ran a half marathon over the weekend, and they messaged that we were right. Shorter intervals do work. They were 1 minute and 45 seconds off of their PR where they had done 60-30s using 30-30s.
A minute different. That's insane.
Yeah, 1 minute and 45 seconds off. It was absolutely crazy.
We had another
Karen says you two are totally right. I did about shorter intervals, increasing foot speed. I did Sunday's half marathon in 30-30s. It was only 1 minute 45 seconds slower than the last half I did at 60-30s with a similar perceived exertion, and I finished feeling good. And so
it's really, really crazy that we have found that our, found this correlation or this, I was doing 2:30 and 30.
And you were trying to go up to 4 and
trying to go longer, right? So for both the half, the half I did last year, I did 2:30 and 30 and ran 8:30 something pace. The 151 I ran. And when we did, when I did Philly, it was 2:30 and 30 5 years ago. To run an 8:40 or an 8:30 pace. And now, I'm thinking it's going to be, a minute 15 or something when I come back to being able to do an 8:30 pace. It's going to be a minute 20, minute 15, 30.
At some point you do have to extend your intervals. I was working on and did extend my intervals to 3 and 30 for CIM, but I had worked on getting that foot speed faster, and really for the pace that I was running at CIM, Jeff's Pacers would be doing 4 and 30. So we're still a minute off, and I probably could have held the same pace doing 2 and 30. The problem was I wouldn't have been able to push through the crowds and stayed in the pace area, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Because sometimes you have to balance what is the speed everybody else is running.
Exactly.
Because
you get caught up in their foot pace.
And so what I kind of did is I positioned myself sort of towards the back of the 3:30 pace group and just
Right.
kind of stuck there. And that's actually when I listened to them was when I like got myself in trouble and like actually probably added those 2 minutes
Right.
because they were like, it's time to make your move at mile 18. And it was not time for me to make my move
No.
at mile 18. If I was going to, you know, kind of make a move, I should have waited and made it at like 22.
Yeah, that's why like at Philly it worked out well that I was seated up further up where I wasn't
Right.
going to run that fast this past, you know, Philly. And then something like Rehoboth, I started by the 2:15 group, and it's a small race, so I was
Yeah.
able to tick forward.
Yeah.
But even though the race does get crowded because it goes through these really narrow points. But so if you're running a race that's like much more, you know, a bigger city, a bigger race, you might get caught up in the waves of people who are running whatever pace they're running. And so you have to kind of have that in mind. If it's a small race, you can set yourself back
Right.
further, but you might get stuck if it's a bigger race. You might get stuck with those groups further back.
Right.
It can be harder to tick forward. We had one other person who ran using, Carrie, who's an ambassador, she's been bucked off her horse and bruised her ribs, and she wasn't sure.
No.
She had a half on Thanksgiving. She's like, and she's usually like a 3-hour half
Yeah.
person, or like even over 3. I think 3 is around her PR. So she's usually using a longer interval for that, but a, you know, slower time. So she decided to drop it. She did 30:30s and completed her half
Okay.
instead of, I think she normally does like 1:30s. And
Yeah.
so she was like, I'm going to try a shorter interval. And then she was really excited that it worked. She did
That's
it.
awesome.
She finished. And, you know, and she wasn't off. I'll have to go see what her time was. I don't think she was much off her normal 3:15, whatever she normally runs for half.
Yeah. Oh, and you know what? We also, like, speaking of, like, just saying hi to people, we have to say happy belated birthday to Jess. Her birthday was last week.
Yeah.
Or just happy birthday to Jess. So, Jess, happy birthday. Because we
happy
know you're going to be
birthday,
listening.
Jess.
But so at the Thanksgiving race, speaking of, like, shorter intervals and foot speed and all of that, Thanksgiving race, I ran into Emily, who is another Galloway runner, friend of ours who ran Chicago. This past year after actually dealing with a long injury, but she was able to finish Chicago. And she's been working with a coach who has been trying to get her to drop intervals. And she's
A
in
non-Galloway
this
coach.
Yep,
She
she's
usually
in the-
used to work with a Galloway
She
coach.
used to work with a Galloway coach, and she's been, you know, working on like running longer and working with this coach. And she has a goal of doing a longer race, of doing a 50 miler. And, you know, here's the thing about like Galloway, and I was telling Naomi this, and I told Emily this. When we're talking about these like use intervals to finish, that's like level 1 Galloway, right? So you're going to use whatever interval matches up with your time to finish like 30-30, 1 and 30, 90-30, 2 and 30. Those are really like kind of the entry, maybe even 15-30. Those are the entry level intervals, right? And you're going to use the same interval. Most people use the same interval for all runs. And then they're going to do whatever they can on race day, right? That's entry level Galloway.
Right.
If you want to get faster, if you want to get into the longer distances, you have to change up your intervals depending on the speed you want to go and your exertion. And you have to practice speed at all the intervals as well. You have to practice running fast 15-30s,
Yeah.
fast 30-30s, slow 15-30s, slow 30-30s. You have to practice, you know, kind of moderate
Range.
threshold 3 and 30s. You have to practice a full lap on the track, 15-second walk break, another full lap on the track, or being on the track and doing, you know, run the straights, walk the curves. Like, because level 2, level 3, upper level Galloway is just taking elite track training, 5K, 10K on the track training, and applying it to marathon training. That's all it is. It's not something, as much as I love Jeff, and Jeff is amazing and incredible, and he came up with a method that his beginner level gets people from the couch to running,
Right.
and gets people like me to qualify for Boston. Like,
Right.
because I even don't do upper level training because I like just, you know, kind of showing up. But he didn't really invent this. He just adapted something that in, you know, kind of in sports training theory that was already there. He adapted it from the elites and he brought it down to the recreational runners.
Right.
And I feel
And you
like
put some structure to it, I
oh,
feel
of
like.
course, 100%. But even I think recreational runners before were just, okay, step 1, start running. Step 2, there is no step 2, right? Like very few
Right.
recreational runners were doing, especially like during the beginning of the running boom, they were just going outside for a run. They weren't doing workouts. They weren't wearing watches, telling their speeds, telling their splits.
Right.
They were maybe doing fartleks, maybe, and changing pace, but it was just go outside and run,
Yeah.
and then show up at the race and run the road race, right? So all he did was adapt this elite style training for the recreational runner, and then now it feels like everybody has a coach everywhere, and
Yeah.
everybody is a coach.
Everybody is a coach.
Everybody is a coach. Everybody has a coach. Everybody's doing workouts, but I mean the bulk of running and getting faster is literally just go outside and do it.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
So I actually really like, we should talk about we talked about this. So like you're looking to do a longer distance. One thing, and it kind of goes back to the gauntlets. One thing is that you are going to have to probably get faster before you can go approach one of these 50-mile races. Or 100-mile races. They have cutoffs, and people who have trained have missed the cutoffs. And so, it's something, again, to respect the distance.
Yeah.
And then I loved your proposal, hot take. There should be races out there that have
a
reverse cutoff. Not a reverse cutoff, but
a no faster than.
A no faster than.
I want there to be a race out there, like a marathon out there, that's like no faster finishes than 4 hours. And there's a pace group at the front, there's a wall. And like that pace group, that's the front of the race, and it can't go faster than a 9:09. Because if you have a race like that, then you can open up the end. Like you don't have to close those later streets earlier for those 2-something hour marathoners. So you can essentially, like it opens the load of the race to be able to have an 8-hour cutoff for a marathon. So yeah, I think that there should be a no faster than races.
I think we should reach out to Slow AF from the Run Club.
Yeah.
That they were at Philly, and I didn't have my phone to take pictures with them, so I didn't take pictures because I was on my phone though.
I think we definitely I think that we definitely need to have races that are designed where you're not going to be praising, we're not going to be praising, 2-hour marathoners and Boston qualifiers and all of that. We're going to be praising every finisher. We're going to be praising the everyman runner, because I feel like I don't know, I feel like there's a little bit of we celebrate the top a little too much in our sport.
Right.
And the bottom deserves to, I mean, it's not even tops and bottoms, but all speeds deserve to be celebrated. I mean, we all should be respecting the distance though. And so I think those two things go hand in hand. We should, because let me tell you, I mean, hot take, a 6.5, 7-hour marathon is harder than a 3:30 marathon.
It's way harder. It's way
harder.
harder.
Hot take.
Yeah. It's way more time on your feet. It's way harder.
Yeah.
And so
and it takes longer to train for.
Yeah.
It
does. All the training hours that go into that.
And it's not that it probably takes equivalent hours to train for, but it's just it takes a longer session, because we still believe in the very long sessions. Right. Whereas with a fast marathon, you're gonna have to do doubles, so it's the same number of hours out to get but you're gonna have higher volume with a faster run with that many hours, but still it doesn't, I mean, it's a lot.
Yeah. And we're still, I know there's a lot of people out there that will have, that'll say, oh, we'll just cap out your longest run at 3 hours or 3.5 hours.
But not if you're going for a 6 hours.
I don't think that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah,
if you're only
5
getting
to 6
to 13
whatever
miles
no.
in 3 hours, no.
It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, I still believe in the slowdown. So
yes.
Right? If I were to be training somebody who was in the 6-hour marathon range, and that was going to be a stretch goal to get them to a 6-hour, what I might do is I might actually have them with the walk run intervals. I may have them alternate walk half miles and then interval half miles in order to keep the physical stress low on their body, because I would still want to give them some speed work, because I feel the benefits of doing that 3-week cycle, that advanced 3-week cycle, over just being out there slogging every weekend. I feel like muscular skeletally, it makes you stronger, it makes you better, it makes you faster. Like, so I would probably give them something like that for their long runs, and then I would do something like half mile repeats on the speed weekends.
Right.
Or even build in, you know, like, okay, do this long run, or like moderate long run, like not super slow over distance long run, but do this, and then let's do a quick 3 miles, right? Like that sort of thing, because I feel like when you build in like speed is strength work too.
Right.
So
yeah, that's the thing. Speed for every pace is so important. Like, you know, what you were saying about doing with your shorter intervals, you have to be able to do those faster too. It's not just every time you go out with 30-30s, you're not going to necessarily slog. It's going to depend on what you have on the day. And
I mean, we talked about strides. We have a whole episode of how to become a faster runner in just 3 minutes.
Exactly. The strides. And that's like where, you know, that's where like Jeff's overall holistic, you know, plans with like a Magic Mile, not that we ever do them, but something like a Magic Mile to see, well, okay, what's my top speed at a given distance, and then that can be extrapolated to all of your distances. So whether you're doing repeats, whether they're half mile or mile repeats, or whether they're 2 mile repeats, or whether, you know, it's your long runs. They all it's not like if you're a slower runner, then you're always a slower runner. So I mean,
that's exactly it. Like, you have the ability to, like, no matter what pace you are right now, you have the ability to improve. With some specific training, and you have the ability to improve your fitness to cover longer distances. You have the ability to improve your fitness to cover distances faster. I mean, it might be marginal improvements, but like, you have the ability to enjoy distances more.
Right. And improvements, like on a typical cycle, or, you know, a typical season, or even a whole year of training, you should see 3%.
3%.
You might have a 5% year. That's like your year, but 3%. So that's going to sound small, but that's what you should expect in a good year. And so 3 to 5% improvement with the training. And if you don't do the training, you're probably not going to see 3 to 5% unless you're a brand new runner.
You may see a 1 to 2% improvement just with showing up every day, which is kind of nice. Like, you know, and remember, you can't compare year to year. We talked about this in the Marathon is Hot episode. You can't compare year to year on the same course without taking weather into account, because weather can make such a difference. Like, I really, really, really hope that, you know, we are able to race Richmond next year, or CIM, and we get a cold day, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And I really, really hope that we're able to like get a really like good cold, but not windy cold.
Yeah.
Like just like nice and cold.
I know, that perfect weather day.
Yeah.
And
still cold.
Yeah. Windless.
Is that a thing?
Windless cold.
Windless cold.
Yeah, I feel like
windless 40.
Exactly. We've also found though that like it's a mindset. It's such a mindset, because like what we ran in for Mountains Beach this year would have been a temperature that I would have previously freaked out about, and it still ended up being a great time for where we were.
So fun.
For our fitness. So
it was so fun. Oh my gosh. I'm tired. I'm tired. Well, I'm excited too, because tomorrow you're going to be running. Oh, and we went to the pool this weekend.
Yes.
So that was good.
And pool running doesn't bother your pelvis.
No, pool running doesn't. So I'm going to try to get pool running in. Like, I'm going to try to do long runs in the pool, and then I'm going to try to like just do shorter, like, you know, weekday runs. I'm hoping to be able to push to 45 minutes
Yeah.
if I can. If I can't, no big deal.
Yeah.
I have the ability to, like, I got a pelvic floor trainer. I don't know if that's gonna work. It's like a thing you put in your vagina. But like Runner's World UK, like, was like, oh, these are good for runners, and like one of my pregnancy apps was like, buy a pelvic floor trainer. I was
Yeah.
like, what is that?
Oh yeah. I mean, I knew about him, but I was just like, nah, I'm good.
I was like, well, I mean,
Try
if this can prevent like issues, I'm all for it.
Yeah,
So
and you may or may not have the
Yeah.
same. Who knows what
Yeah.
you'll have? But every pregnancy is different.
and I have the referral for PT, so I can
Good.
I just don't know that Kaiser has a good pelvic floor PT. So.
Yeah, I think they're all out of network because I've talked to some PTs and they're like, yeah, I would never do that. They don't. It's not something they specialize in. It's very
Right. That's
specialized. But, I've heard it's baby 2 or baby 3 that ruins you down there. So maybe you'll be okay for this one.
Well, yeah, let's hope. I mean, I just want to with like the pelvic instability that I already have,
Yeah.
like I need to like stay strong or be strong
Yes.
or get strong. I don't know. The stronger I can get now, the better it's going to serve me when I start training. So
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, and strength is so important right now. So yeah, we're gonna start some strength. I did a little bit of strength last night, which
Woohoo.
was tough because I haven't done some, and it's so long. It's been like a month or more.
My next
since I've done any
strength activity is going to be to carry all of the weights downstairs. So that's going to be my next strength activity. You better believe I'm going to record it on my watch.
There you go.
Because I have a lot of hand weights. Okay, well, Penny says we're done recording. So definitely send it. I think our next episode will be a gift guide.
Yeah,
So-
we'll throw some favorite running gifts out to y'all, and we'll make sure we put up the links too.
Yeah.
So hopefully, next episode.
And send us comments, questions, anything you've got. And, we're working on training plans to get out for you guys. And keep running, have fun, respect your distance. And, and it's okay. And take lots of rest days because rest days are awesome.
Yeah,
Even
they
when
are.
they're unplanned.
Happy
All right.
running. Bye.
Bye.